Have you ever reached a point where it feels like your life has just hit a glass ceiling? Your earnings and your pleasure, they just don't seem to rise no matter how hard you try. You're putting in the work, you're following the manifestation rituals, you're doing all of them, but still there's a barrier that you just can't seem to break through. Well, tune in to today's episode because I'm going to share with you 5 ways to explode your pleasure and money glass ceiling. Enjoy, Hot Mamas. Welcome to the Multi-Orgasmic Millionaire Podcast, where sexual liberation meets financial empowerment. Join me, Tilly Storm, top 20 sex coach worldwide, on my own journey to becoming a multi-orgasmic millionaire through the mystical art of sex magic, financial savvy, and guidance from my very own mystical Yoni Oracle. I'm going to reveal how I'm turning orgasms into cold, hard cash. Get ready to dive deep and discover the secrets to living a life of abundance on your own multi-orgasmic terms. Welcome back to the Multi-Orgasmic Billionaire. It's Tilly Storm here, and today we're talking about ways to explode your pleasure and money glass ceiling. Have you ever gotten to the point where things just don't seem to be getting any better? Where it's like there's this level that you're able to go to in terms of the money you make or the pleasure that you can experience. And no matter how hard you have tried to get past that certain point, you haven't been able to figure out why in the world can I not get to the next level. Today, I'm going to share with you exactly how you can do that. And the order in which I tell you these things is really important, so take note. I'm not saying you must do them in this specific order, but at least number 1 and 5 that I'm going to tell you about, you don't want to do number 5 before you do number 1. So I'm telling you the order and the way that I would personally go about them, but it might be a little bit different somewhere in the middle for most people, but just start with number 1. Do not try number 5 until you have done number 1. So here we go. The first way to explode your pleasure and money glass ceiling is to increase your nervous system capacity. Your nervous system is the key. It is the part that will unlock that next level of abundance and pleasure for you. And it is the only part that will make any lick of difference if you've done all of the mindset work in the world and you still haven't gotten there, and you've never worked on the nervous system component. This is why your efforts have not been successful. If you have done all of the manifestation strategies, you've taken all of the steps to make sure you do it every day, and it's still not working, it's because you haven't gone to the nervous system. This is where all change and transformation is going to take root and to take place for the long term. Expanding your nervous system's capacity to handle stress and pleasure can help you manage larger amounts of pleasure, larger amounts of wealth, larger amounts of success without self-sabotage. Now, we all think that we want to avoid stress. This is not true. Avoiding stress doesn't allow you to grow. It actually makes you one of those people that doesn't really adventure much. They don't go much out of their way. They don't put themselves in situations where things might happen because they're afraid of it. People who live like that aren't living a full life. Having stress isn't an issue. So you want to give yourself the experience of having a multitude of different life experiences where some are going to be stressful. When you think of all of the amazing things about this life here on planet Earth, the most amazing experiences are the ones that often cause us the most amount of stress. Think about it for a second. Whether it's having kids, super stressful, but also super amazing. Whether it's your entrepreneurial journey, the mission that you have in the world and the business that you're starting or have been running for a while, super stressful, but also the most fulfilling, right? So that just goes to show that stress isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that we need to shift our views around. So increasing your nervous system capacity to hold more without sabotaging is what is needed. So practices like breath work, meditation, there is actually a nervous system release technique and nervous system cycles that I take all of my clients through. And you can also get those practices in my 5 days to epic pleasure and passion for ambitious women training at the link in the show notes, all for free. So go download them now. I give you the nervous system practices because I think everybody should start here. I think this is like the baseline for what we all should know when it comes to like wanting to manifest more of what we want and explode past these glass ceilings we keep running up against in our lives. So always start at the nervous system. The second way to explode your pleasure and many glass ceiling, this one, I'm going to talk more specifically around pleasure here, but this one is orgasm detox. So orgasm detox is where you abstain from bringing yourself to peak pleasure or orgasm for a period of time in order to reset your sexual energy, to detoxify your system, allow it to resensitize. So an orgasm detox can really enhance your sensitivity. It can help you to rejuvenate and to refocus your energy in ways that maybe you weren't before because you were so focused on the orgasm itself. And the orgasm detox, if you've ever purposefully not let yourself get there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't know, everyone's going to be different, right? So I don't want to say you need to do it for this particular amount of time because that would be a very generalized approach. So every body is going to need a different amount of time for their orgasm detox. For me, for example, I'm very multi-orgasmic. I can have lots of them all the time, multiple times a day. So even going just 3 or 4 days for me is kind of a long time. But a week is like, oh my goodness, that's a really long time. So for other people, going a month, going even 6 months or a year without an orgasm isn't a big deal for them. So it just kind of depends on your body and where you're at with your orgasm currently. But an orgasm detox is where it's not that you're abstaining from pleasure, it's where you are practicing edging. So getting to the point of the pleasure, moving into the orgasmic state, but not quite letting yourself get there. So it doesn't mean that you can't self-pleasure and that you can't have sex. It just means that you're resensitizing your body and priming it for more pleasure. So this is a super juicy way to explode your pleasure glass ceiling. The third one is your jade egg practice. So a jade egg, I've talked about many times on this podcast, but it is an ancient practice from the Taoist tradition that you use an egg-shaped stone inside of your vaginal muscles, and you do different squeezes and releases and breathwork practices with it. It's basically like yoga for your vagina. And the way that it explodes your pleasure glass ceiling is it really helps you to chill the hell out and to stop trying to force an orgasm, to stop trying to force pleasure. When you tune into your body and you get really present and you're in tune with your breath, your sound, you're allowing yourself to move freely. When you're doing the jade egg practices, you're instructed to do and approach your self-pleasure from a very holistic standpoint. And when you do this, it really resensitizes your vaginal muscles, your internal vaginal canal, your clitoral hood, everything, to experience more pleasure and more sensitivity. So give it a try. It's an exquisite practice. I highly recommend it and teach it to almost all of my female clients. The fourth way to explode your pleasure and many glass ceiling is with pleasure rituals and manifestation techniques. So this means do self-pleasure practices and sex magic around money and pleasure. I have a sex magic practice that you can download at the link in the show notes for free. This is a sexual mastery level technique. So if you've never done any sexuality practices, if you don't know what sexual energy is, you're not going to get it. So if you have done sexuality practices before, or you've heard of sex magic before, you understand what sexual energy is, then you can go ahead and try it. But it is something that when you learn the power of your sexual energy and how to harness sexual energy to manifest more of what you want, then it's very likely you're going to get it. So I actually give you that practice for free in the show notes. All right, the fifth way to explode your pleasure and money glass ceiling is your money and pleasure mindset. Now, I told you this one last for a very specific reason, because mindset don't change nothing unless you have done that unconscious reprogramming with your nervous system first. There is no amount of gratitude, there is no amount of positive thinking and affirmations that will shift and change your nervous system. Your nervous system is wired from the day you were born, and that shit is slow to change. And it doesn't change by telling yourself a different story. Once you've done the nervous system work to bring it into regulation, then the mindset work becomes pertinent. It becomes very important. But most people do it ass backwards. They start with the mindset work, they get a little bit of traction, and then they're like, screw this self-development stuff. It doesn't really work. Well, that's why, because they're not going to the level of the mind that your money and pleasure set point are at. If you want to flip the switch and explode past the glass ceiling, you got to go to the actual switch, not the stuff on top of it. So the money and pleasure mindset is really about identifying any limiting beliefs about money and pleasure and replacing them with empowering beliefs based on your empowering abundant identity or your empowering pleasure identity. Okay. So you can cultivate abundance and pleasure mindset by focusing on who do I need to be in order to have more of what I want. So mindset is all about identity work. And really, this is the crux of transformation. Once you've got your nervous system regulated and on board and feeling like it can hold this new capacity for pleasure and abundance, then all it is from there is telling yourself the story that it's already happened. So stepping into that abundant and pleasure-filled identity on a daily basis is the final piece of the puzzle. And that is where my Milli Tilly identity comes in. So I've been working with my millionaire identity since the very beginning of 2024. And it's been extremely powerful to look at, how am I showing up? Am I showing up as my Milli Tilly millionaire self every day? Or am I showing up as the outdated version of myself that I no longer desire to be? And it's about checking in with, where are my thoughts? Where is that set point right now? Because I've done the nervous system work. I've expanded my capacity to receive pleasure and abundance at a level that I didn't ever think was going to be possible for me. And it's just about coming back on a daily basis to, okay, where are my beliefs right now? What's actually going on in the background that I'm not always conscious and aware of, and becoming conscious and aware of that and catching it dead in its tracks. And then really putting my crown on and saying, okay, enough of that. That's crazy. Like, this is how I would behave. These are the decisions I would make. These are the choices I would make if I were actually stepping into and living as my most abundant and pleasure-filled identity. All right, loves. So those are your 5 ways to explode your pleasure and money glass ceiling. If you would like to receive support to determine what's in the way of your pleasure, if you've never had an orgasm before, if orgasms are elusive or difficult to reach, or you just don't experience much pleasure in sex or in your life in general, maybe you have pain or numbness in the bedroom, well, it's time for you to get on a call, my love. So book a pleasure assessment call at the link in the show notes, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to uncover answers, and I'm going to give you insights about why you aren't experiencing pleasure to the degree that you would like. And then we're going to come up with a specific roadmap to get you where you want to be. So go book that call at the link in the show notes, and I'll see you there. Bye.